Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Port Angeles, on yet another beautiful Thursday evening. I invite us all just to take a breath. Just take a deep breath in and out. I invite us to become present right here, right now, to let go of everything that it took to get here, everything that might follow, and just become present in this beautiful moment. This moment where there is enough, where all is well, where we are here together in this thing we call spiritual community that ripples out from this place in love and graciousness. I'm so grateful to be here right now with all of you. And so it is. So it is. I invite us into our opening song. I am opening up in Sweet Surrender. The words are in your program. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I love the vibration of the opening song. Brings us present right here, right now. I invite us into the reading of our vision and our mission. They are in our program. I invite you to say it with me if you choose. Our vision. We are an open, safe, creative, and spiritual community where we experience divine love and connection every day. Our mission. Through spiritual, artistic, and social gatherings, we experience and express divine love. Our intentions create ripples of compassion into the world. Thank you. We are soon going to be amending our vision and mission to include we are an affirming community. We now belong to a worldwide organization of centers and churches that have signed up that are LGBT friendly. And so we are part of that organization. We are listed on their list. And so we want to affirm that we are an affirming community. Wherever you are, whoever you are on your path, you are welcome here. And that is a very important part of our mission. So we will amend that starting in August. We have a few announcements. Our Open Men's Circle is next Saturday on August 5th. That is facilitated by Yurik Chodek. And it's a very powerful group of powerful men coming together and stepping fully into their authentic nature. We have Workshop Wednesday happening on August 9th with me, and that's going to be on relationships. That'll be the main focus. but we're using a lot of different tools to enable us to look at all the many relationships in our life in a different way. And then the following Saturday is our Women's Wisdom group, and that is from 12 until noon. No, 12 until noon. That makes no sense. That's the shortest meeting ever. That is from noon until 2 p.m. So we hope,
wise.
if you are a woman, I hope that you join us. I'm wise to correct my mistakes. And as always, if you've got something that's weighing on you, something that's heavy on your heart, or something you'd like to celebrate, I invite you to fill out a prayer request form in the back of the room and turn that in to Reverend Clancy or myself, and we will hold that in strict confidence and also in the highest form of consciousness and prayer all week long. There will be a shift. You will feel it in your bones. Oh, and the biggest announcement, most important of all for this week, our party is Saturday. Woo! Celebrating 1 year of spiritual community and also community with the Interfaith Group in Clallam County. That's on Saturday, July 29th from 1 to 5 p.m. Come at 1 o'clock for a meet and greet. At 1:30 we're doing a welcoming ceremony, and it'll be delicious food and some fabulous music with Joel and Ivy Ricci. Yay!
Yay!
So that'll be super fun.
And it's a potluck.
Yep, it is a potluck. Bring your food. Can't have a community event without a potluck, or at least without food. Oh, and also, I am now an officially ordained minister. For those people who don't know, in our particular movement, in our philosophy, when we first become a licensed minister, we then need another approximately 3 years and roughly 6,000 hours of ministry under our belt before we officially become ordained. And so that is a big process. It's very powerful in our movement, and I'm very honored to have sat in front of 3 other ministers, and they asked me lots of questions, and then they said, "You are ordained." And I said, "Great." I had no doubt, but it was nice to be confirmed and affirmed for that. I invite up Reverend Dr. Clancy Blakemore for our opening reading, our brief time of silence, which I will bring us out with the gong, and then a time of prayer.
Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of Science of Mind and Spirit, wrote many books. One of his was called 10 Ideas That Make a Difference. And the quotation tonight is from that book. We each have an individual part to play in the great scheme of things. And the most valuable thing anyone can do is to be a little more certain each day that they are meeting life with a deeper sense of understanding and sympathy for others, and a greater sense of love. With a greater sense of love. Let's just contemplate that for a few moments. I know that in the great creative possibilities and limitless probabilities of life, that love is the key that unlocks it all. Love is the key that unlocks the peace, the knowledge, the wisdom. Love is the key that unlocks that depth of knowing, the fulfilling of all life, with whoever, wherever anyone is, because it is the limitless creative spirit of life. I know that everyone within the sound of my voice is attuned to it, is within that energy, is filled with it, and is expressing it uniquely right here and right now. And this gathering is filled with that same energy of love and truth, beyond any data or any facts. The ultimate truth of wholeness. I'm so grateful this is the truth. And from this place of knowing and this assurance that all is well, I simply release my word. It is done, it is complete. And so it is. So it is.
EOD affirms that too. Our special music this evening is by Joel, and it is an original composition entitled Elucidation. So I'm going to get out the way and let him play. That was gorgeous. Jody does not know what to make of that. It's all good. Yeah, you're all safe. It's all
He's
good.
never heard that.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Go say hi. That's hilarious. She was like, what is that? And she sits in the middle of drum circle with all kinds of drums going on. Usually just relaxes. Just takes her a minute, like all of us. Okay, you can relax. Yeah, you're good. What is it? Is Timmy in the well? What's going on? We'll just got all this out later. So my talk title tonight is Open Communication, which is also the theme for our whole month. And I love this quote from Ernest Holmes. We each have an individual part to play in the great scheme of things. We talked a lot about that last week, the individual nature of us in the wholeness of the one. And the most valuable thing anyone can do is to be a little more certain. I like that he says a little more certain. Not completely certain, but a little more certain than we were yesterday. Each day that they are meeting life with a deeper sense of understanding and sympathy for others, and with a greater sense of love. We have to start with us. We begin to cultivate that greater sense of understanding and sympathy for ourselves first, for when we have foibles and challenges and when we don't always have our highest and best expressions happening. And then that can then move out into the world with that greater sympathy with others. I believe, and I know from a lot of my reading and my own personal experience, that as humans, we don't really understand this concept of unconditional love. It's very hard for us to grasp that sort of intangible concept of unconditional love. We talk about it a lot. I would like to be able to love unconditionally. I want to be loved unconditionally. But I don't know that we really know what that means, because all of us, whether we've had the most amazing parents in the world or not, grew up being loved conditionally. You know, we felt that we had to be a certain way in order to be loved. We think we need to work to get love. Especially here in North America, we have a very skewed idea that we think we're just not enough. We're not whole. And so we have to spend our whole life working to be worthy of love. We need to work and pretend to be who we think they need us to be in order to be loved. So we carry around these masks that we wear, depending on the person or the circumstance, and we put them on and we walk around as if that's us. I taught for 3 or 4 summers a middle school drama camp, and that was the whole focus of the camp. When I started, I wanted the kids to be able to write their own show, write their own music, and I didn't want it to be just another cute kids show. This was kids 10 to 14 years old. And I said early on that my suggestion was they could do a cute kids show, and that would be nice, and people would come and go, wasn't that nice? Or they could do something that would not only move them forward in their life, but also the audience, that would break us open in a new way. And so we talked a lot before we ever started writing about the masks we wear, about the false beliefs of who we then think we are underneath the masks, and then the truth of who we really are, the wholeness that we really are. And it was amazing to me to watch kids who may or may not have had great parents and may or may not have had easy lives, and also at that age are being told by everyone in the world who to be and how to be. Their friends are telling them, their school is telling them, their parents are telling them, you know, everyone is telling them how you need to be when you grow up. That they had a choice. Who do you want to be in the world? Who do you want to be? And so the first show was a lot about bullies and bullying and what that looked like. And it was very powerful. And the second show also themed around this idea of these 3 layers that we carry around our whole life. So then we've got this mask on, and then we have somebody that loves us, that falls in love with us, maybe. And then when we're loved, we mistrust that love because we're just pretending, and they're in love with the mask. They're not in love with me, they're in love with my mask. Now, they didn't put that on me, I did. And then later, as we relax and we let our masks begin to fall off, then the person that loved us is confused. It's like seeing somebody who's worn a lot of makeup suddenly without any makeup. Who are you? You're a different person than I thought I was with. Because suddenly we begin to reveal who we really are. And maybe it gets messy between the mask and who we truly are, because that stuff in the middle carries with it all of our false beliefs and all the stuff that we think we're not enough about, and so we get defensive. Well, you should just love me for how I am. And they're like, well, I thought that was you. So it all gets really messy and confusing. So we then let our real selves out, and then we get resentful when they don't love that. It's very tangled. So we get to stop pretending. We can choose at whatever age we are, 10 or 50 or 70 or 90, we can choose at any point to just stop pretending, to be who we really are. Not the false beliefs who, but the true who. Ooh, that sounds like a Dr. Seuss book. The true who. The trueness, the wholeness, the beauty, the love, the amazing passion and grace that we are. We get to start to tell the truth. We get to be willing to be vulnerable. That's very scary. When we begin to reveal who we really are, people who have known us for a long time might have a problem with that. Well, I always thought you were this way, but now you're different. And so, how do I adjust to that? Well, we get to be gracious with each other. We get to be gracious with ourselves as we step more and more into our truth. And we get to be gracious with another as they're revealing their truth. And we get to be patient with those people that are trying to adjust to the real us, the one we're finally letting out into the world. We get to be really patient. And that's not always easy, because as soon as we step into our truth and into our power, we're like, and here I am, take it or leave it. And people are like, whoa, whoa, give me a minute. Just give me a minute so I can adjust, because I always thought you were this. The worst case, when we become vulnerable and authentic, the worst case is rejection. That's like the worst case. We're going to be rejected. The best case is actually being loved, really loved, for who we really are. Authentically us. The messy, clumsy, beautiful reality of who a person really is. I made a very serious commitment to myself when I was dating in my 30s that I was going to go to every first date as me. Just as me. I wasn't going to put on any mask. I wasn't going to pretty up. I wasn't going to put on my best behavior. I mean, I'm a nice person, but I wasn't going to pretend. And I wasn't going to just share my, most perfect self. I was going to share all of myself. Because if you don't like me, let's not waste each other's time. If I'm not your cup of tea, that doesn't mean I'm wrong or they're wrong. It just means we're not a good fit. Because I'm, weird in a particular way. And if my weird fits your weird, great. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't want to waste any time or energy being someone else. I'd spent a lot of time doing that in theater. And I don't do that anymore. I want to be me all the time. It takes way less effort. It's far more energizing to be you all the time. So who do we think we are? Who do we think we really are? A friend of mine shared over this past week when I was visiting a really cool process that she's been exploring, and I really loved it, so I want to share it with you. She said, I noticed that I've always got something that I fixate on as a problem. And so when my money's going great, I fixate on that I'm too fat. And when I feel great about my money and the great in my body, well, then I fixate on I'm going to be alone forever. And so, I'm single at this age, and I should have somebody in my life, and so I'm going to be alone forever. And when I am good with my money, and I'm good with my body, and I don't worry about being alone forever, well, then I fixate on something else. And she realized that she just kept having this need for something to be wrong. Something to be wrong with her. And she's discovering that under all that, all those onion layers, that there is a wholeness and a beautiful person. And she's recognizing her tendency to want to fixate on these things to reinforce her wrongness. And that that's no longer okay. That's no longer acceptable. And there comes a point, I think, for many of us, where we begin to say, this self-abuse is no longer acceptable. And it may take us time and a lot of patience to begin to love ourselves the way we want to be loved. That has to be step one. If we're searching out here for someone to love the authentic us, then when they don't, what happens? Then we break. If we can begin here, loving the authentic self, loving who we are, all of the beauty and the messiness of us, then whether somebody else loves us or not, we know we are loved. If we have a spiritual practice and we've felt the presence of the divine moving in and through us, we begin to also know we are never alone. That this false idea that I'll be alone for the rest of my life can never be true, because we are never, ever alone. Because we are so deeply loved by the divine that it made us, that it created each one of us. So maybe you have a similar pattern. If I'm fixating on that, then I don't look at that. And when I look at that, I don't want to look at this. And where do we stop? Peeling off the layers. So we begin to tell the truth about ourselves. We don't just blurt out our story and throw up all over everybody in the grocery store. We find those people and places where we can begin to practice being more authentic, saying what we need. I came home last night after a long, busy, excitement-filled trip, and I was exhausted, just wiped out. And we were all having dinner, as we do here, and I noticed that I wasn't being fully present because I was very tired and I was getting hooked in to my tired energy. And so I just said at the table, I just need to say what's going on with me right now, because my quietness is not about anybody else but me. I want to be fully present right here with you all. So carry on with the conversation, but if I'm not talking, that doesn't mean anything, except that I just want to be able to listen. I've been talking for 5 days. So I just want to listen. And I noticed I had this edge, and then I just said what was true for me. I didn't need anybody to do anything different, but I needed to speak that for myself. And then I could relax. And then I could be however I was. And then I chimed in a little more with conversation. But I felt more present when I spoke my truth. And I knew I was in a safe space. And I'm discovering every day more and more, when I'm willing to own what's going on with me and to speak it, to get it out of here and out into the space, then there's suddenly a lot more room in me, which makes a lot more room for everybody else in my life. So we tell the truth, and then we begin to seek to understand rather than to be understood. Oh, I so remember in my first marriage, all I wanted to be was understood, and boy, did we have a lot of fights about that. He wanted to be understood, and I wanted to be understood, but we didn't have a lot of space to try to understand the other. And so that's a good, important step. Seek to understand rather than it being understood. It creates space. There was a great scientific experiment that some people recently did, and they took 10 people that were interviewing for a job, and this was all part of the experiment, and they knew that this was happening. So they were saying, you're going to go in for this interview and we're going to put a red dot on your cheek. And we want you to tell us when you come out of the interview how often the interviewer was looking at the dot on your cheek. And so they all came out and reported, oh yeah, the interviewer was spending all that time looking at the dot on my cheek. They weren't really looking at me. They were busy looking at my dot. What they didn't know was that only 5 out of the 10 people had a dot on their cheek. So they touched them with something, but they didn't have a dot. But they were convinced that that person was looking at their dot. And I love that experiment because we so often are so concerned with what they think of me. What are they looking at when they see me? What are they believing about me when they see me? You know, Terry Cole Whitaker a long time ago said, what you think of me is none of my business. That's way easier said than experienced. So I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it again. When I had Bell's palsy the first time, I was supposed to be on the platform, as Reverend Clancy was earlier, at my spiritual center, and I was going to be doing the opening prayer and the reading and all of that. But I had Bell's palsy, so I had half of a face. And I asked my minister, is it okay if I just tell people what's going on so they don't think I had a stroke? I don't want people to be concerned, because I'm fine, and I'm willing to be up there with half a face. And he said, sure, just take a minute. So I got up and I said, this is what's going on, and here's what I know. We've all got something. This Bell's palsy showed up for me because I was just about to step into ministerial school, and this was like a tangible evidence of my fear, my belief in my unworthiness. It just was something that was showing up to stop me. It was my belief showing up in tangible form to try to stop me, that I wasn't worthy or good enough to be a minister. And I got to choose. Is this going to stop me having half of a face, comedy mask, tragedy mask? Or am I going to just move forward? So I took a couple days of pity pot, and then I got clear that, oh no, I'm definitely going to be a minister. And what I shared with the congregation was, we've all got something. Most of it is not visible. We all have something, that red dot, that we think is so evident to everybody else in the world about our unworthiness, that we allow that to stop us from moving forward into who we really want to be, who we choose to be in this life. So, visible or invisible, think about those things that for you, when you wanted to leap into the next biggest expression of yourself, that have come up to want to bite you in the behind and say, no, 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 that's too scary. Stay back here where it's safe. What's your red dot? That you think everybody's staring at, but they're not. Because they're worried what you're thinking about them looking at them. So just let it go. We're all spending so much time looking at each other, wondering what you're thinking about me. So if we just relax and be who we are, life flows. Life becomes a little more effortless, a little more grace-filled. So we tell the truth, we seek to understand, and then we go out of our way to extend grace to those in this world and in life that are excluded. For one reason or another, we extend some grace. Ernest Holmes has a great quote, "Each soul is some part of the whole. It is impossible that any soul can be lost." Impossible. So where can we extend grace to those that are excluded? This week is a very powerful opportunity to speak up and to speak out about some of the things that are happening in our country to exclude people. We have a choice to speak up and speak out about that in a way that's loving and compassionate and stands in our truth. This is what we stand for. This is not what we're against. This is what we stand for. There's a compassion exercise that I put on the insert of your program. It's on the back of our announcements page. It's called the Compassion Exercise, and it's from an organization called the Avatar Times. And so I want to read it, and we're going to, after we go through it, I'm going to invite us to go through the 5 steps. So it says, this exercise can be done anywhere where people congregate, airports, malls, beaches, etc. It should be done on strangers, unobtrusively, from some distance. Try to do all 5 steps on the same person. Expected results are a personal sense of peace. So each one of these, it says, with attention on the person. So if I was in an airport, I would pick out some person far away from me, maybe even some person that I look at and I notice I have some judgment about. Maybe they're being pushy, maybe they're being loud, whatever it is. Maybe it's somebody that I notice and I look at them and I have a reaction. So with attention on the person, repeat to yourself, and we'll do this in a minute, just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for his or her life. Just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for his or her life, or their life. With attention on the person, again, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in his or her or their life. With attention on the person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. With attention on the person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill his or her or their needs. With attention on the person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is learning about life. So we've added, you might have heard me kind of under my breath, his or her or their life. That's because in the LGBT community, many people prefer to be called they versus him or her or he or she. And so again, we want to affirm that. We want to acknowledge that choice and honor it wherever we can. So I will amend this so we have clean copies and include that word as well. But you can put that in for yourself. It says at the bottom, I love this, may be done by couples and family members to increase understanding of each other. May be done on old enemies and antagonists. May be done on other life forms. So I can think of a few people in the world right now that I might want to say, just like me, this person is seeking some happiness for their life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in their life. Just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Just like me, this person is seeking to fulfill their needs. Just like me, this person is learning about life. We're always learning. We're always growing. Some of us have more practice with compassion than others, but it's definitely something we can learn. A long time ago, a book came out called The Emotional Quotient. Instead of the IQ, the intelligence quotient, it was all about the emotional quotient. And one of the cool things I read in that book was it said, your IQ is kind of apparently fixed from the time that you're born, but your emotional quotient can shift. They said in the book that your emotional quotient can shift and grow all the way up through your teens. So even those troubled teenagers that we think will never be okay can begin to discover delayed satisfaction and compassion and all these things that build a higher emotional IQ. I believe that we can build a higher emotional IQ, or emotional quotient, at any time of our life. Because we can continue to grow it for ourselves, and then that ripples out, which is what we're all about here. Just like me. Just like me. That's a powerful phrase. That person is just like me. They want happiness. They want a good life. They may be going about it in a way that looks completely foreign to me. And ultimately, we want the same things. We want peace. We want grace. Some of us just don't know how to get it because that unconditional love became so conditional. I think about the child soldiers, and the only way they could feel anything was to kill people. The only condition, their condition was, you must go and kill people to be accepted in this tribe, in this group. To find any kind of acceptance and have it be that you have to kill someone. Wow, that's hard. That's a big mask. And yet, we hear story after story of those people who grew up there, who somehow or another got out, who heal and become compassionate, loving beings. They take off their mask and they reveal the truth that's always been in there, that they too are the beloved. They too are a child of God. They too are the one in form. It just got hidden by a very scary mask for a long time. So I invite us this week to discover our own masks a little more, maybe peel off a layer or two. Maybe it's like a face mask, like a cleansing mask. We have to peel off a couple of layers. Maybe there's a bunch of them on there. Maybe we put them on in different situations for different people, in different circumstances. Take the risk. Begin to peel it off. See what happens. Thank you. We have an affirmation in our insert. I invite you to say it with me. It's right underneath the title of our talk, Open Communication. Our affirmation today. I seek to understand and remember that each soul is some part of the whole. We invite Joel back up. This is our time for conscious giving. This is our time where we stay in the flow.
Find the filter.
The flow of giving and receiving in life is just this energy form that we've agreed upon. I was at the spiritual center we used to belong to down in San Diego on Sunday, and the minister there was talking about, she said, money used to be, gold and coins and paper, and that was the agreed upon thing that we put all this value on. Now it's just electronic data going through the air, and we still put all this value on this electronic data that's just floating around. She said, I don't know how it works, but it's amazing. So with the electronic data, if you have a tangible gift that you're giving today or an electronically data gift, which could just be love and energy and peace, that's good too. That's all just energy as well. Just invite us to know that the work that we do here, that the play that we do here, that the high intention that we carry in this spiritual center goes forth into the world to do very good work. That every life that we touch is powerfully shifted in the direction of good, in the direction of love, in the direction of acceptance. I'm grateful for that. Invite us to say our conscious giving affirmation together. I am open to give. I am open to receive. I am grateful to be in the flow of life through and as me. I invite you to stand for our closing song, Song Universal. Remember, all you have to remember is Shalom, Hallelujah. Shalom, Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia. Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia. Alleluia. Shalom, Alleluia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go again next week. And Saturday, ooh, we get a whole week of Joel. Yay!
Yay.
Invite you to come check us out sometime if you're in the Port Angeles or Squim area, and definitely go back and have some tea and water and snacks.
Snacks! If you come to get snacks, let's come to get snacks. You gotta show up if you want to get snacks.
Woo!